I have been playing Rise of Kingdoms for 2,212 days, which is actually insane until you understand why it is that I enjoy the game and why it is that I'm still playing, which is what I'm going to tell you about in this video, sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. Because yes, hilariously enough, we're going to go all the way back to the start of my journey, which came, by the way, from a sponsored Rise of Kingdoms video, is how I discovered the game, to now, where, I mean, I've got multiple accounts and I've got over 100 million dead tier 5 troops, which is like kind of crazy. That's $1 billion power worth of dead troops, y'all. Sheesh. So if you're new to the game or new to my channel, strap in, because I'm going to have timestamps in the description. You can jump to whichever sort of part you like, but we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about my history with the game. We're going to talk about what I've enjoyed the most on this journey and why it is that I still play today. So let's start by talking about history, baby. Ancient history. Like I said, I started playing this game because of a sponsored video just like this one, where someone was talking about the game and showing how the game worked. And I made my brand new account. This was it right here. This was the one back in September of 2024. In fact, I think if I go look at my markswoman, I can show you the exact date that I first opened up the game, which now I'm really kind of intrigued to do. So September 24th of 2018 at 21:27 UTC was the fateful day where my journey began in Rise of Kingdoms. And this was back before there were KVKs, back before Ark of Osiris, back before migration. All you had was home kingdom. And it was really important to get a good king in place. And believe me, I would know, because although I started in a secondary alliance and made my way to the main alliance, eventually I was made king of the kingdom back in the day, back when it was a little bit less convenient to do the things you wanted to do in the game. For example, there is a king skill that gives a buff to everybody in your kingdom. How lovely. You can give a training speed buff. And there's also a kingdom title that gave a training speed buff. Today it's the Duke, a title that multiple people can distribute. Back in the day, it was the General, a title that only the king would be able to distribute. So I would sit there, if you could believe it, for hours on end, being a good old king, giving out the General title to people that wanted to train troops during the Mightiest Governor. Oh my gosh. Back in the day, my friends. Back in the day. Anyways, after some time, we had a civil war in our kingdom. And the Civil War was sort of brewing before I became the king. This group had sort of spun off, and it's funny because I can like really empathize with what they were up to now, where they basically were anti-complacency. They wanted everybody to be an active fighter in the kingdom, not a passive farmer. There were too many passive farmers in the main alliances, in their opinion. And let me tell you, back in the day, civil wars were way more intense. Like, there was no migration option. So this was it. You were fighting life or death for the continuation of your account. There was nowhere to go. And at the time, I was like 25 million power. And the people that were sort of pushing their way towards Zone 3 and were going to sort of be the oppressors of the kingdom basically said, hey, you join our team or you're getting zeroed, bro. And, you know, long story short is I didn't get zeroed. But the fighting that subsequently followed was really, really crazy. And you can see all of that, by the way, on YouTube and via streams. Looking back on it, it's incredible how many hours were spent. First of all, playing like noobs. Nobody really knew what to do in the same way that they do today. But second of all, how many hours were sunk into the negotiations, the conversations leading up to, during, and after this major, major civil war. And I think this brings us to what I've enjoyed the most about the game, right? My history here has brought us to today, where I've got 2 accounts in the same kingdom. They're in 2293. Why is it that I still play the game in 2024? Okay. And the reason I play the game is for the stories, right? There's so much to this game. There are many, many things you can collect. Commanders, armaments, inscriptions. All of that is fun and secondary for me to the human experience. Because the humans, the people that are playing this game, your allies and your enemies, are shockingly unpredictable. And the stories you get from this are incredible. There are so many people with so many different perspectives. It's honestly shocking how two completely different kingdoms can approach the game in two completely different ways. You've got access to all the same building blocks to form the kingdom. It's the same land. It's access to the same commanders, the same randomness for, making your equipment and getting your armaments and inscriptions, but you end up with two completely different ways of viewing and thinking about the world. So even when the meta is known and the deck is stacked one way or another, you actually don't know what's going to happen. Okay? Even in KVKs that I have been in, where you've got the top end, most professional kingdoms, they will fall to their petty grudges and they will play in a way that sabotages their success for an emotional benefit, an emotional need they have to hold a grudge and okay, I'm a content creator, so I get an outsized share of that hatred at times. It just is what it is, okay? But to give an example of a KVK that, as it turns out, and this is maybe going back into history, was just a super memorable experience for me. One of my most memorable experiences in the game, and it's experiences like this, which are the reason why I still play, is that I still can look back on this Strife of the Eight KVK and remember it as one of the coolest experiences I've had in this game. Now, if you're newer to the game and you're not familiar with KVK, this is kingdom versus kingdom. Huge groups of players all smash against each other. And it is not uncommon for large kingdoms to take the cheesy, we'll call it the cheesy way out, maybe it's a sissy route, of allying with each other and allying the strong kingdoms and picking on a few others. Okay, and that is exactly what happened, where technically it was a 4 war camp versus 4 war camp situation, but 3 of the war camps were easily the strongest. They all allied together, and we were in the bottom right. They were upper right, upper left, bottom left, and then also they were in the middle, bottom. Okay, and I was in 1075 at the time. We fought 2 versus 1 against these guys, and we were winning. It was so fun. And we lost the KVK overall because, obviously they stacked the deck in their favor. So by the time all the war camps got in there, it was GG's. But in these sort of first couple zones, we were shredding, bro. It was awesome. And all these videos and streams live on to history. If you want to see when 3,000 plus people were watching my live stream when I woke up in the morning and we were taking triple rallies on a flag and trading positive, right? That's available for you to go and watch and see. And that experience was so nuts. And it was also really fun because, look, back in the day in 1075, we had a bunch of people that were too casual. They were farmers, not fighters. But even those players showed up big to fight in this KVK because of the rivalry between these folks that had betrayed them in the past. Dude, it was crazy, bro. It was so crazy. Now, again, we lost that KVK overall, but I look back on it as one of my fondest memories in this game. And I remember that there were just so many of these experiences that are like this, these stories. So the reason I still play Rise of Kingdoms, okay, is that you never really know what's going to happen. And along the way, you're going to get some crazy stories, right? You start playing the game to work on your city and because you're finding it interesting, collecting commanders and working on talent builds. And then learning, hey, how am I going to do well in Canyon with the stuff that I have? And how does Ark of Osiris work? And hey, look, we've got this Soroli event. That's kind of neat. All of that stuff, or Ian's Ballads in this case, all of that stuff pulls you into the game. But the reason you stick around, in my opinion, and the reason it's worth starting playing is because of the stories you'll sort of make for yourself on this journey and the people you'll meet along the way. And I think that's the most insane thing about this game is that you just can't predict what your allies are going to do or certainly what your enemies are going to do. And there's so many different people with so many different perspectives. It's just astonishing how multiple groups of people with all the same building blocks arrive to completely different conclusions, right? And when I look at who I'm even playing with, right, I can go back into the rankings here, and I can look through at individual power. And there's this one dude, Abe, who I have been playing with since KVK Season 1. I might have scrolled past him here. Abe, where are you at, bro? Where is Abe at? Right? I've been playing with this dude since KVK 1. I remember back in KVK 1 when he and I were fighting against Khan Double C, and it was this big, scary rally that no one knew how to deal with because Khan had just showed up in game, and it was like, wow, so tough. How do you deal with this? Times were so different. Individual alliances were doing Diplo and making deals, and kingdoms, well, hey, look, you know, kingdoms are always going to take an easy fight if they feel like that's what they want to create for themselves. But it has just been a crazy, crazy journey, right? And you share that with other people. And some of those people you're not going to like. Along the way, there's just, you meet personalities, some of whom think they're like helping the kingdom or good for the kingdom, but they're just toxic as all get out, and hopefully they quit. That's what you hope. It's like, please just go away. Others are not actually helping the kingdom. They're fighting the kingdom. And it is just a huge drama as they, you know, fight against the progress of the kingdom. Now, these days, kingdoms have so many more tools to deal with sort of bad actors, as it were. But all of that adds flavor, man. It makes the game so spicy. Like, just look up any of my old Rogue player videos. Like, I think King Talib was one back in the day. And there were just so many of these guys that, like, I don't, this is such a fun time. Actually looking back on it, these crazy memories. So that's why I still play. Because I enjoy the people I'm playing with, and we're making some crazy memories. And, you know, even when you're in these situations where people expect you're going to lose, it either can make for a really good experience, despite the fact that maybe you'll lose anyways, or in the times where they overestimate themselves and they brag about it, and then you beat them, that also becomes memorable for other reasons and very satisfying. So winning or losing, you can certainly be having a good time as long as you surround yourself with good people. GG's. So TLDR, I joined the game because I was interested in city building and the war aspects, and I stick with the game for the community. That is the way I think Rise of Kingdoms works, and I think that'll be your experience too. So if you want to check out the game and you haven't yet downloaded it, you could use the link in the description. Alternatively, if you're not convinced yet, or you want to just like see some more of the history, I'll have cards on screen here and here in just a second. I'll give you two things. I'll give you that KVK where I was describing 3,000 people watching the triple rallies, because that was crazy fun. And I'll give you a Civil War video. And dude, just talking about those, like you can see I'm like smiling and right, like just thinking about it, even though like these are losing situations, it was just a great memory. Weird enough. I don't know. Watch the videos. You'll see what I mean.